The Russian Hermits of Karoulia. Unknown to the world, Russian Zealots still exist on Mount Athos, even after the Russian monasteries have been left virtually empty. Their center is Karoulia, an area of hermit cells built, owned, and sometimes dug out of the steepest cliffs of the Holy Mountain. Spiritually, they descend from the holy elder schema Hiermonk Theodosios, who reposed in 1937. A direct disciple of Elder Theodosius, Schema monk Nicodim, continues to live with two other monks in the cell of his elder, preserving unaltered his monastic rule and strictness. Being remote from the world, they have seen perhaps more clearly than those living in the world the theological and spiritual foundations of the troubles of the Russian diaspora, and they remain, as a matter of principle, in communion only with the Russian Church outside of Russia, refusing even to commemorate at liturgy anyone from the other Russian jurisdictions in parentheses. In a recent letter, Father Nicodim explains something of the beginning of the Zealot movement on Mount Athos in this century. Zealots. This name was taken by the Greeks from the holy apostle Simon Zealots. From 1924, as soon as the new calendar appeared in all Greece, a division occurred on Mount Athos. 4 monasteries accepted the new calendar. In a short time, there were found in the holy Lavra of St. Athanasius certain manuscripts, the anathemas against the new calendar of Patriarch Jeremiah and Cyril. After reading these manuscripts, 3 monasteries returned to the old calendar, but Vatopedi monastery remained in the new calendar and remains in it to the present time. The other 19 monasteries, without accepting the new calendar, did not break off communion with the new calendarists and did not separate from the new calendarist patriarch, and many of them commemorate him to the present time. Some cell and desert dwellers of Mount Athos became zealous and separated from the patriarch, ceasing to commemorate him, but did not cease contact with the monasteries which commemorate the patriarch. A part of the Greek and Moldovan desert dwellers and our Russian inhabitants of Karoulia ceased contact also with the cell dwellers who had communion in prayer with the monasteries, and from this zeal the name Zealots originated. There are over 300 of such zealots among the monks of Mount Athos. 2 elders became the leaders of the zealots, Schema monk Callinicus, a Greek, an advisor of Elder Theodosius, and the spiritual father Ignatius, a Bulgarian, the elder of Father Theodosius, and also my elder Schema Hieromunk Theodosios of Karoulia. Such a division on Mount Athos exists right up to the present time. 1971. The Skete-dwellers of Mount Athos. The largest number of the Zealots of the Holy Mountain live in the Sketes: St. Anne's Skete, New Skete, Karoulia Skete, the Skete of Xenophontos, the Skete of St. Panteleimon belonging to Kutlumushiu, and others. While being administratively dependent on one of the 20 ruling monasteries, each group of Skete dwellers is free to take the Zealot stand or not as it wishes. In recent years, the Zealots in the Sketes have found a spokesman in the young Schema monk Theodoritos, a resident of St. Anne's Skete, who has published several books in Athens, one on the life of St. Nectarius, Desert Dialogues on Ecumenism, which refutes this heresy, and most recently a book on frequent Holy Communion. No reader of these well-reasoned works will succumb to the illusion of some Orthodox modernists that the Zealot movement is born of ignorance and backwardness. Here is the challenge of the Zealots of the Holy Mountain to the Orthodox Christians of the world. The Zealot movement and the service to the Orthodox Faith on Mount Athos by Theodoritos, monk of St. Anne's Skete. The Zealot movement on Mount Athos appeared at the time of the forcible and anti-canonical calendar change imposed by the Patriarchate of Constantinople and by the Church of Greece in 1924. And while none of the worldly clergy protested effectively or with any result on the Holy Mountain, on the other hand, tens of Hiermonks and a fair number of monks reacted drastically by cutting off all communion with those who had accepted the innovation, and likewise with those who continued to follow the old calendar, yet remained in communion with the new calendarists, such as the Slavic churches and some patriarchates. The question arises, did they have the right to do this? Certainly yes, given that in the past also, 9th century, the great and holy abbot Theodor of Studion likewise broke off communion with all those in communion with presbyter Joseph, the priest who had blessed the unlawful fourth marriage of Emperor Constantine VI. Yet, in the present case, in the anti-canonical introduction of the new calendar, the gravity of the innovation was much greater, since it concerned the whole body of the Orthodox Church. The calendar innovation, which did not come from or lead to any pastoral need of the body of the faithful, meant a direct retreat before papism, while at the same time it served the realization of the patriarchal message in parentheses, of 1920, according to which the various Christian denominations and churches in parentheses, should not be considered as alien and strange to each other, but as akin and related to Christ and fellow heirs, and fellow members of the body, and fellow partakers of the promise in Christ. And time has shown that the Zealot fathers, as well as the lay faithful who have followed them, were by no means wrong. Since then, one innovation has followed another, while everyone considered them details and not dogmatic subjects, which for the innovators are the only ones that call for breach of communion, as followers of courtesy have said in contradiction of history and tradition. But behold, beginning in 1965, the 7th of December, the above dogmatic in parentheses, subjects also appeared, namely the lifting of anathemas, various cases of joint prayer of Orthodox with different heretics, Papists and Protestants, and even the administration of sacraments to Papists by certain Orthodox hierarchs and priests. And instead of being moved by all this, Orthodox bishops and other clerics and monks, as well as the wise university theologians, continue still to forbear, finding this time new passwords to appease the disturbed conscience of their pious flock, such as economy for a time and collective opposition, thus suppressing all private initiative and any attempt to arouse God's people to check the accursed ecumenism. Unfortunately, however, even the Holy Mountain has not been able to dismiss the ideology of the ecumenism orthodox. Even today, those who commemorate or are in communion with those who commemorate consider the Zealot fathers to be fanatics and backward. In spite of their wisdom, they are indifferent to, or rather ignorant of, the fact that by being in communion with any ecumenist and consequently with the successor of Athenagoras, his equivalent Demetrius I, they have, as it were, become uniates. We write this because since 1968 the commemoration of the Pope was inserted into the holy diptychs of the Patriarchate, in conformity with the declaration made at the time by the late Athenagoras. At the same time, the Roman Pontiff was not only frequently publicly commemorated even before the Patriarchal Synod, but most triumphant hymns, polity despota many years to the master, have been sung in his honor. A pattern marking the present situation on the Holy Mountain is the fact that all the Zealot fathers happen to be dependents, those who live in huts and skits, not in monasteries, on which they are administratively dependent. It is poor and obscure by the external standards and criteria of this world, but select and honorable in the eyes of God, faithfully following the lawful voice of their lawful pastors. An admirable exception among the monasteries of the Holy Mountain is the Holy Monastery of Esphigmenou, which has lately, 1971, broken all communion with those who commemorate the Patriarch or are directly or indirectly in communion with him, while maintaining communion only with the nearly 250 Zealot Fathers. Because of this, it has become an object of grief to those who control and exercise pressure upon the holy community. In our opinion, the precision in question observed by the Zealots and required by the holy canons is unique in the Orthodox Church and is a sound resumpting of Byzantine Studitism. We write unique in parentheses, since the churches with which the Zealots are in communion, the Church of the Russian diaspora under Metropolitan Philaret and the Greek Church of the Old Calendarists, are obliged to practice a certain amount of economy, which in our opinion is now unwarranted by reason of the environment and of the conventions which govern them, especially the former. However, it should be duly emphasized that the time has come to cease all these economies, to announce the heresy which is now spreading and coming within the hearing of the simple people. Else, the union of communion between them is in danger. And we say this not for personal reasons or from excess of zeal, but because of the propaganda of the ecumenists and lukewarm Orthodox, who consider any such economy to be agreement with their line and thus a chance for them to announce that nothing separates them, nor is there any difference between them and the above two churches, since they also are acting by economy. Such seductive proclamations, very cunningly composed, have been appearing in Greece since 1969. As a small leaven full of life, the strictness of the Zealots daily leavens the select Orthodox bread for the faithful who ever hunger after truth, which bread is always destined to be made in the oven of confession with the wood of compliance, with the conformity to the holy traditions in the midst of a society waxing cold in love and true faith. Matthew chapter 24, line 12. Practicing the scriptural stand fast and hold the traditions. The second epistle to Thessalonians chapter 2, line 15, as well as the watchwords of the holy abbot who has inspired them. If any be monks at the present time, let them show it in deed. And the deed of the monk is not to tolerate, even by chance, any innovation of the gospel. Let the zealots trumpet together, let us stand aright, while at the same time, by the prayers of the Holy Fathers and Confessors, they preserve their most holy Eucharistic altar pure of all heretical communion until the second coming of Christ. Let all the faithful imitate them in deed and word. The Holy Monastery of Esphigmenou. Before the eyes of 20th century humanity, the once glorious Orthodox world is entering the last stages of its desolation, as the consequences of earlier compromises and false steps finally become most obvious. Even now, the burnt out shells of Orthodox Church organizations, Orthodox in parentheses, are making their political preparations, preparing the people, in parentheses, for the coming unia, no longer merely with the Latin Church, but with the whole of apostate and unrepentant Christendom. More than ever, the zealots of Orthodoxy are a despised and often persecuted minority, and on Mount Athos in particular the battle has become fierce. But as the great crisis of Orthodoxy approaches, more and more the followers of modernization in parentheses, come to see the error and folly of their position and make their choice, and some are choosing the zealot side. Just recently, in 1971, the monastery of Esphigmenou, with its 45 fathers, became the first monastery of Mount Athos to take the full zealot stand of breaking off communion with the commemorators of the Patriarch, and soon Archimandrite Haralambos and the fathers of Simonopetra monastery expressed their support for this position in view of the pressures which the Holy Community is bringing to bear on the new zealots. In his reply to the Holy Community of 21st of July 1972, the Abbot of Esphigmenou, Archimandrite Athanasius, expresses well the zealot determination today and says, "You call our monastery zealot, desiring to show your aversion by this appellation. Could you find a sweeter name for us? The Lord himself is zealous. Thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God." Exodus chapter 34, line 14. As a logical consequence, we, his servants, should be called zealots and should be proud of this name. We are writing to your reverence as monks to monks, and for the last time we remind you of these words of the New Testament. But thou we, or an angel from heaven, preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be anathema. The only goal of all of us is the heavenly kingdom, for the sake of which we have left the world and have suffered the afflictions of the monastic life. Why should we shut our eyes in order to hear at the end the anathema of the Apostle Paul? The way is hard, there are insults, persecutions, etc. But we have engaged ourselves to all these when we put on the great angelic schema. We inform your reverence that we cannot give in even on 1,000th of the above, lest we fall under the anathema. For if I yet pleased man, I should not be the servant of Christ. Bishop Theophanes concludes his definition of Orthodox zeal in the following words. In defining the proper direction of zeal, the Apostle writes to the Romans, "I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." To the Romans chapter 12, line 1 to line 2. The renewing of the mind is the renewing of our spirit by grace. Having come to life, it removes itself from the deeds of this age and is zealous only to please God, offering its whole self to God as a sacrifice, living and holy, and therefore also acceptable to God. And so you see what zeal is, what is its power, and what its direction. Inasmuch as the significance of this zeal is so great, It is worth the labor of determining whether we have it or not, and so labor at this. May the words of this Holy Father be a command to us last Christians, and may our contemporary zealots, for whom let us offer fervent prayer, truly be for us the leaven of a sacrificial bread which the faithful offer to God by their flaming zeal for Him. Amen.